With COVID-19 pandemic still raging in Brooklyn, New York, the United States, and the world, it is still unclear, certainly unclear to me, how much impact vaccines will have on ending the pandemic. Vaccine production, distribution, and administration are still behind what it will take to shorten the pandemic curves worldwide and the epidemic curves nationally. And now, to make things even worse, we have all these variants threatening to decrease the effectiveness of our vaccine program. Nonetheless, we welcome the COVID-19 vaccine to our preventive armamentarium. According to news reports, vaccines have been performing as well in the real world as they did in the phase 3 trials, and we look forward to their biological licensing soon. In the interim, though, it's important to remember that no vaccine is approved for prevention of COVID-19. The current biological products that are being distributed under emergency use authorization are experimental and, like most other vaccines, have known short-term side effects. They also have the potential for myriad unknown short-term and long-term side effects, depending on the platform that is being used. However, COVID-19 vaccines are likely to be an important factor in mitigating additional pandemic waves and limiting the incidence and prevalence of COVID-19 post-pandemic. In 1989, the CDC sponsored a Kaiser Permanente Los Angeles County measles vaccine study on infants, where the experimental Edmonston Zagreb measles vaccine was administered to Black and poor infants. The mothers of the children were not informed that the vaccine was experimental. Later, this vaccine was believed to cause death and morbidity in African and Haitian children, resulting in its discontinuation worldwide. 5 years after the experiment, Dr. David Satcher, then the director of the CDC, admitted that a mistake was made and he apologized. In addition, there is an abundance of instances where medicine and the healthcare delivery system has exploited the Black body for experimental and scientific inquiry. I refer to the United States Public Health Tuskegee experiment, Johns Hopkins management of HeLa cells of Henrietta Lacks, J. Marion Sims surgeries, repeated surgeries on Anarcha and other slaves, and the excessive use of Negroes for autopsy and dangerous experiments during Jim Crow and slavery times. These practices are rooted in scientific racism and medical apartheid. And as these inequities still exist, similar atrocities are likely to recur. Since the experimental vaccines are being distributed widely at this time, it is likely that we will lose some ability to gather necessary information about vaccine efficacy and safety in the future, as less people will be available for clinical trials. Therefore, we should monitor those receiving the vaccines as if they are in a phase 3 trial. They should at least receive PCR swabbing and serology blood testing. Also, they should be monitored actively in addition to the passive CDC vaccine adverse events reporting system. It will soon become apparent whether the vaccines will be as effective and safe in the real world as in the phase 3 trials. We must get updated information from the pharmaceutical companies. The last time we got information was about 3 months ago. We really need updated information. And they, the pharmaceutical companies, should apply for biological licensing so that the population vaccinated can benefit from injury compensation and other legal and public health protections usually afforded to a licensed vaccine. Finally, it is relatively easy and it is the duty of a physician to inform a patient on what treatments are standard of care and what treatments are experimental. So, especially because the vaccines are not licensed, the population should be free to choose if they want to take the vaccine. Incidentally, my patients have most of them chosen to take the vaccine, despite the fact that we have these types of discussions. Employees, incarcerated people, and other individuals with limited freedom of choice should not be mandated to take an unlicensed biological product. Also, vaccination status should not be used as privilege or a passport, particularly since there are no licensed COVID-19 vaccines at this time, and the effectiveness of the vaccines in the real world have not been determined. So this is my take as an individual. However, it should not only be my take, and this is why we're having this conference. We have put together what I consider the brightest and best of the brightest and best.